Mark is absent right now. She may be arriving late. Councilmember Cerna.
Here.
Councilmember Kingsley.
Here.
Councilmember Barton.
Here.
Councilmember Elam.
Here.
Vice President Sokolowski is on her way, and President Leonard.
Here.
Mayor Aronson.
Here.
Thank you.
Thank you, Stephanie. I think it was 27.
Okay, great. She's here. So this evening we are here to present to you your fiscal year 2024 budget. I'm going to go over some brief highlights and then we'll roll into capital and operational for each of the line items and each of the departments. The timeline for the budget process moving forward, we'll take the feedback that we received from you this evening and we will finalize the drafting of the 2024 budget over the course of October. We will roll into a special budget meeting presentation on November 1st. That will be at 6 p.m. in the public meeting room. We will vote to advertise the budget and the tax levy resolution on November 15th. And then if so inclined, you will have the approved budget and tax levy on your agenda for December 20th. This evening, we are presenting a budget with forecasted revenues and expenditures. Your revenues are at $16,947,322. Your expenditures are at $16,952,711. So what that means is that right now, today, we have a few changes that will happen. We have certain numbers that are not available to us, like healthcare, workers' comp, property and liability. There are estimates in your budget right now. They'll be released from Divot shortly. So some numbers will change. But today, you're looking at roughly $5,000 needed to balance your budget. And that does not result in the need for any tax increase moving into 2024. So this evening, we are presenting a full budget with no tax increase. If you add in your transfers to reserve accounts, your budget gets to roughly $17,952,711. Transfers, we usually allocate $500,000 to your OPEB and $500,000 to your capital reserve just for fiscal responsibility purposes. So if you add in that million transferred to reserve funds, it's roughly $1,005,389. Your revenues come out to an increase of roughly 16.51%, and the budget we're presenting this evening for expenditures without transfers is 16.93%, and then with transfers it's roughly 15.84%. So for conversation purposes this evening, what you're roughly looking at is a 16% budgetary increase. That is a relatively large number, much larger than you have seen in the past. So before we dive into all of the department requests for capital and any increases in your line items for your operational budget and your general fund, I just want to lay out for you what makes up that 16%. So this year, unfortunately, your municipal requirements for your pension plans were greatly impacted negatively by the market. So your pension plans are invested. They are subject to market fluctuations. They're based off an actuarial evaluation that happens over a 2-year period. For your total MMO increases that are built into this budget, you're looking at roughly $685,000, which is significantly larger than anything we've seen over the course of the last 5 to 6 years. Again, we are mandated to fund that. We are lucky enough to be in a position that we can cover those costs, but that does have a significant impact to your overall percentage increase from 2023 to 2024. The other item, we've been asked and charged to do an assessment of all of our borough services, especially since we're expecting a 35% population increase over the next 18 months. We have built into this budget those new personnel positions, which I'll get into later this evening, but those total personnel costs equate to roughly 7 additional bodies on staff, so 7 FTEs, and all of the full-time employee costs equate to roughly $824,000. So that's a conversation piece that we can have, and it's a timing conversation that we can have, but we wanted to present to you kind of really what you're looking at. If you want a full budget that we think will serve your population with a few additional needs down the road, it equates to roughly $824,000. And to just put that into perspective, 1 mil for the borough in tax revenue right now is equating to approximately $635,000. So it's slightly above what that 1 mil real estate tax amount equates to. So you're talking about $685,000, $824,000, and then the other addition in this budget, which was rather large, which makes a significant difference from 2023, is your stormwater management. So again, there are a lot of unfunded, uncontrollable factors that are built into this budget. The DEP, relative to MS4, they're changing their regulations and their requirements. We have a municipal responsibility to keep up with those requirements and make sure we're providing the services that our residents and businesses need. So you're looking at roughly a $393,000 increase relative to stormwater. However, that $393,000 that you're seeing on your expenditure side is also coming in on your revenue side. So it's, in essence, a wash. Money coming in is going out. But when you're looking at your percentage increase, it definitely has an effect. So with all that being said, those three factors equate to $1.9 million, roughly. So if you take that $1.9 million and you take it off of your $17.9 million, you get to roughly, from 2023 to 2024, an estimated $15,050,040. So if you were just comparing everything that you offered your residents in 2023 through your budget to everything you would be offering the same in 2024, you're looking at roughly a 3.81% increase, which is significantly different than a 16% increase based off the factors that I just discussed. So historically, when we've done the budget, we've tried to stay in line with the national inflation or cost of living increase. They're estimating roughly 4.1% moving into 2024. So if we were to remove those three factors that either we don't have control over and are mandated to do, and or forecasting for needs that we're going to have to address down the road, you are completely in line with what you've approved in terms of your budget historically. Does that all make sense? Any questions on that?
Steph, I apologize. I was just getting settled when you had started.
That's okay.
So it's a 16% increase in operating expenses. Did you say what the revenues were?
Yes, so the revenues right now, we're forecasting roughly 16.51% increase. So the revenues from 2023 to 2024 are increasing about 2.4 million. And that is made up of roughly 1.5 million in forecasted EIT and BPT. And those numbers are coming directly from the tax collectors whose job it is to collect the taxes on behalf of the borough and estimate what we can expect moving forward. So that's a direct pipeline from your corporations to the borough. Real estate, you're forecasting roughly $250,000 increase in real estate and property taxes. Because of the reserves you've built up in terms of cash, you have a large increase in your interest funds. So you'll see an increase also in your fees because there's more money, more fees, but also more interest. And then the stormwater fees are estimating revenue of about $400,000. So altogether, it's 2.4 million, roughly 16.5%. If your expenditures are around 16.9%, there's just a little bit of wiggle room there in order to have a fully balanced budget. You have the fund balance to carry that roughly $6,000 right now, but all of the numbers are not set at this point. We're giving you a draft, and when the numbers are final, you'll see them in November. Mostly from Divot at this point, we're waiting on, and the Attorney General for the state aid for the pensions.
Thank you.
Good?
Yep.
Okay. So those are your budget highlights. We'll move into the department presentations, and then we'll move into some other final conclusions on the budget later this evening. So first up is Angela, and she will be reviewing administrative services requests for both capital and also any increases in line items over 4%.
Hello. Okay, so first we will be doing capital, which is this smaller sheet, 2-page.
Oh, I'm gonna go over this real fast.
Yeah,
what
sure.
They have in front of them. So in your packets that are in front of you, you have multiple documents. You have the final proposed budget, draft budget that's in front of you. It looks like this. It is numbered 1 through 20 in terms of the pages, and all of the line items we are going to be discussing are highlighted. So as the directors go through the line items, they'll reference the page number and the account number, and you'll be able to find it because they're already highlighted for you. Also included in your packet is the capital budget worksheet. This was included in your meeting upload. As we are, once all the department directors have presented, we'll circle back to the actual worksheet and we'll start plugging in numbers so you can see where you're at. And then the last item in your packet is the statement of revenues and expenditures. It looks like this. This is also numbered. This is your revenues and expenditures as of September 18th, 2023. So if you need to reference a specific line item to what's been expended currently year to date, you can do so. Okay, sorry, thank you.
Sure. Okay, so we'll start with the capital fund, the smallest. On page 2, under administrative services, there is replace staff computers. There are 5 computers in the amount of $8,750. And that is per the borough's depreciation schedule that the 5 computers will be up for replacement in 2024. The second item is Secure Guard Desktop. This is a standalone desktop for our new camera software for the EOC. The next item is the HPE network switch, which is a replacement switch for our phone system.
And just to clarify, Angela is representing Chuck
Are you okay?
Christensen.
On page
Oh,
2
right
of
here.
this, the capital. Sure, no problem. So it's like the third item down, administrative services. Any questions on those?
And those items and estimates are directly from our IT vendor based off of technology needs.
Right, and the last time we replaced computers,
Every year, there's a depreciation schedule. Everybody is listed on it.
okay. So it rotates.
Yes.
What is the general life expectancy of the computer in 2023 now?
That's a good.
It depends on a PC and a Mac. The Macs that we have are slightly different because of updates and the way that technology works. PCs, probably
I think it's
4 or 5
years.
years. Or as needed.
The next thing we'll talk about is the bigger packet, the general fund packet with the highlighted items. And we will skip to page 7. The account number is 014022215 for postage. In July of 2023, postage increased by 3 more cents, so it was 3 cents in January, 3 more cents in July, and we are not sure what it will be in 2024. So we estimated $50 more for that account as our increase. Account 014022390 are bank charges. Steph already touched on that a little bit. You know, the more money, the more charges you have. So that is an estimate for 2024. And then turning the page on page 8. account number 01407-452, professional services, web and tech. This is increased based on billable hours due to increased infrastructure and overall cost of doing business. This came directly from our IT vendor as well.
Anybody have any questions on the
No question? And that's all I have.
Thank
Thank
you,
you.
Angela. Paul, if you're ready? Okay.
Evening. So I'm going to start with the capital because that's the easiest for me. I did have one request under communication, special events, and media production to upgrade the Crestron control system. I actually don't need that request anymore because the initial plan was to upgrade it next year. With the way the system was about 9 years old, and it was told to me that we should replace it next year. But over the summer, that system really started to go bad much faster than we anticipated, so we had to order the part out of this year's budget. So hopefully we'll get that installed early next year, just the production chain, and it's a long way from being here, but we have it ordered and ready to go, get it installed once it's here, hopefully in early 24. So as far as capital goes, I actually don't have any at all. So that's the easy part. I do have two line items, and they're both on page 6, 01400-317 and 01400-531. The first one, 400-317, media production and communication. Out of that budget comes having Lero come out, Kyle, who's in the back room. He records all the meetings for us and helps set up the room along with myself. That budget also includes if Lero comes out to do any repairs, which they've had to do a few times already. We've had these TVs blink a few times. I'm sure you've noticed. Some AV equipment, obviously. And then just to provide a cushion should anything else break, according to the timeline Chuck gave me, or pardon me, Randy Sylvester gave me, we should be okay for 2024, but with the way the summer went, who knows? Also, the newsletter comes out of that budget. And for myself, I'm looking at a camera to bring to events to take video and take pictures. So, yeah, it's nicer too than reaching out and pulling out my iPhone. It looks, they do about the same thing, but I think optically it looks better than me pulling out an iPhone. So that's some of that budget line. And then 400-531 community outreach and assistance. And the increase for this twofold. One, we've gotten some more requests for events in the borough. We did Greenfest this past year, and next year we're looking at Simon's Heart to do that bike race. So that increase will go with the events that are being increased. Also, I want to try and improve on what we did this year with events. FunFest was insane. I'm not sure if that's the proper term, but in my mind, the turnout we had was tremendous. Yes, that's a great way to put it. So I want to try and build off that next year, improve the kids zone, and get some more inflatables because that was a really big expense this year. I actually had to cut things back to make sure we had the inflatables, get some more balloon artists and face painters so they don't pass out after 6 hours for all the children. Yeah, so we would like to, yeah, I couldn't imagine. So maybe to get a second one of each of those, I would like. We do. We rent them from Beanie Bounce. Yes. Yeah. So we had 8 inflatables this year and 9 attendants. So that was a big expense for FunFest. Also, I'd like to try and, if possible, get a mascot in, maybe Swoop or Fanatic. Obviously, they have rental costs as well. So I'm just trying to improve on what we did this year to make it a better event next year. Obviously, a lot of that plays in with the weather. If I could bottle what we got this year, that would be awesome. So I definitely want to build off that and try and find ways to improve with the summer concert series. Bands always increase each year their fees. And then, if possible, maybe get a food truck out like a Kona Ice, because those summer nights, they were hot.
We were very high.
So just something, if possible, to get like a Kona or another frozen food truck to give some residents something else to do while they're enjoying the music.
So any questions for Paul on his 2 line items?
I don't.
Just on the first line item, the media production and communication, you just spent a bunch of time talking about the enhancements on the second line item. Tell us a little bit about the enhancements on this line item that might have be over and above what we did in 23 for the residents. Are we projecting more of the meetings? Did that happen in 23? Are we looking to do anything more in 24? That kind of stuff.
I think some of it might be down the road if we want to potentially live stream meetings, which is its whole other can of worms.
But the cost is factored into that.
Yes.
And we are exploring it.
Thank you.
Yep.
Thanks, Paul.
Thank you.
Anybody else have any questions for Paul? Thank you, Paul.
All right, thank you, everyone.
Thanks,
Thank you
Paul.
for doing such a good job.
Thank you.
Lauren, if you're ready.
Good evening, everyone. Okay, so I'm starting with my capital budget items that I've requested. First on the list would be the A-Field building.
What page or no one's been?
You're on the capital budget packet? Yep.
Okay. Go ahead. Sorry.
That's okay. So the first is the A-Field building. I'm not sure, I know that, we have voting up there, so some of you are up there, but I'm not sure if all of you have visited up there lately, and especially inside the structure that's up there. It is deteriorating. It is in need of a renovation, updates from the top to the bottom. We literally have portions of the ceiling that have fallen through. That's in the apartment. I've gone in to open up for rentals and have found ceiling on the floor, where I'm calling public services quickly to come and make those repairs. And that was in the locker room, the home side locker room, in the bathrooms. That would be bad, if it happened when people were in there. Thankfully, that hasn't happened. That's in the bathrooms, the women's side bathroom. In every room in this building, it's deteriorating. Dan, I've been in talks with Ray. Dan has brought out a company to assess the building for some of those renovations, and the roof alone, if that needs a full repair, they're trying to give us some repairs instead of a complete reconstruction of the roof. But as you can see, there's water that just puddles, and then the only place for it to go is inside, and that's creating a problem as well. So we would try to start with that. They said that they could possibly give us a number for repairs only, but this number, right now, I have budgeted $250,000. I'm honestly not sure if that's going to cover all the renovations, but we can start with this. We can do some of the renovations and repairs that we need done. And I might, be back later then for other costs, but.
It's structurally, it's other than the roof, it is sand.
Yes. We talked about a complete demolition, but Ray, especially feels that the whole corner would change, that aesthetic would change, and we want, to keep that.
Any questions on that one? Okay.
Another item at the A-Field is the track restoration. So I believe this was the track was put in 2016 or 2017, would I be correct in saying that? Since I came in 2018, this track has looked like this. Water has gotten underneath the track and created a lip. You can see my hand lifting that up. I mean, I can lift the track up in many places, certain places, especially where it lines the asphalt. Recreation Resource, who laid the track, was out this year to do some repairs, and you can see they pretty much laid down they tried to seal it with asphalt, and it just made it look worse in our opinion, but that was their fix for it. But I brought out Miller Sports Construction, who did the Aubrey Collins basketball courts. Also, Recreation Resource that laid the track said at the time, it's not really track material. It was kind of just put down to give us that walking track around the field. But it also has trouble adhering to the asphalt. However, Miller Sports Construction gave us a few options, and we felt that it was best to go with the restoration instead of the complete removal and installation of a new material. They do believe that they can restore it and fix it so there's no lip. Of course, it's a liability, and we do have many, along with the rentals that we have many residents who use it. I was up there the past 2 days with the installation of the new Wayfield scoreboard, and people are there in the rain and cold. So I do believe it's something that's needed to be done. And it's only going to get worse over time with more water getting up and it lifting.
How long do we think that these repairs can hold? Like, is it prudent to
Last.
spend money now if it's going to need to be done in another 2 years, where it's put that money out?
I don't have that answer for you. I don't think it's 2 years, but I think that, he's saying this is something that will last us, but I can check on that for you, Stacy.
Yeah. Do you know how much a full redo the estimate is?
I do. You know what, I should have put that in, but off the top, it was what, about 150,000 or more than that? It was more than that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Once you factor in the labor and the art process.
The next item is community center items. I lumped them together. They are needed. So I have an air hockey table. We did purchase one a few years ago. It broke. I do think that it was used a lot, and the kids really liked it. It was an added addition, something else for them to do. More chairs over the years. We've had, some breaking, bending. I did contact the company to put in a complaint, and it was denied. But the chairs that I found are more durable. So I would just need it in addition to what we already have. TVs, we have 2 outdated TVs in the fitness center that need to be replaced, and then one in the reception area it's broken, it can't be fixed. So, and then a water fountain, which would be a dual fountain drinking and bottle filler that I think is needed there. Any questions on that? Next item is community center paint. The gymnasium is in need of a paint job. It's multiple colors. This would just be something to bring it up to date with the rest of the community center. And then the locker rooms, we did have it painted a few years ago. However, we've done some work, new sinks, lighting, and it didn't cover everything, so we need that. And the floor was painted before, but it seems to be chipping. But the quote and by C&M Painters, Pete Cianci, he's assured me that what they are going to use on the floor will last.
I mean, ultimately, the community center is a revolving door of participants. That's what we wanted it to be. So there's going to be wear and tear. It's also an aging building. So you're going to see an accumulation of costs. There's already an accumulation of costs this year that were not budgeted for. So these are the things that Lauren has picked out that are a priority. But you should expect to see unforeseen costs that are relative to both just normal everyday wear and tear, but also factoring in the aging facility component of the building.
Okay, thank you. Next slide item would be a storage shed or garage. The community center has limited storage. We store equipment and items in our sprinkler room, which we're really not supposed to do. It has been something that, you know, we've discussed over the years, and we just think that it's time. With our growing programs and rentals, our volleyball nets, our pickleball courts, we need to store these items, and we don't have a room to store them in. This would be a 40 by 10 structure. Delos Construction has given us a number, and this is based on basically matching the facade of the building. It would go between the park house and the gymnasium. There's blank area out there that really isn't used for much. We would still be able to, you know, have the Halloween tents and things like that there. So that's where that would go. Next item on the list, the HVAC installation and replacement. In July, we realized, you know, we've made numerous calls to Tustin, who services our HVAC system, with a unit that we were having problems with. There have been things since I came that have been repaired and replaced, and now it is at a point where they no longer can be repaired. Parts can't be replaced. They're saying there are two fouling systems within one area of the reception office area, and so part of it is that, and then the proposal, I think, that has been included also includes installing an AC unit for the gymnasium. There is no air conditioning in there. Keep in mind that a lot of our participants, a lot of programming that we have is for our older adult population, pickleball, fitness classes. They are in that space. There's no air conditioning in there. We've had to in the summertime, we've had to make adjustments and use other rooms. But our active fitness class in the mornings are growing. So it's hard to stay in our fitness room. They use the gymnasium, and not only that, this past summer we've had an issue with one of our younger users, one of our younger members, literal heat exhaustion. You know, I tried to do what I could for him, but when they're playing in there, it does happen. It does get to hot temperatures in there. Correct. Once the humidity comes in, it does get slippery. We've had rentals complain about that. I mean, we have rentals throughout the spring, summer. We have programming throughout that time. We don't stop.
So I just want to provide one point to this number. So the priority for moving into next year is going to be the office space in the conference room. That's the priority in terms of the air conditioning. You did an entire assessment of the community center. The number for the air conditioning, the structural work that was associated with that, and the placement of the units resulted in a much higher number than $210,000, if you'll recall, and that was pre-COVID and pre-inflation. So this is a low number, and we're aware that it's a low number. We're exploring alternative options to that large number, that $500,000 number that was associated with placing units on the rooftop. So we're bringing this back into the forefront as an initiative that you need to be aware of. You should know the priority is going to be the office space in the conference room. This was a late addition to the budget because, again, like I just mentioned, there are issues that are arising with the building every day through our regular operations. So it's a placeholder. You know what the priority is going to be. Lauren has just expressed, again, the need for air conditioning in the gym itself. We don't think that this number will be able to satisfy that unless we can come up with something truly innovative, which we're currently working on, such as the unit would be placed on a pad outside the building as opposed to on the roof, which then may decrease some of the structural work. But we're not there yet in terms of the number. So placeholder for now, making sure you know the priority for 2024, but this is going to be a recurring topic that is being put in front of you, especially since we now have a summer camp that's sold out in 24 hours. We have school out programs, and Lauren and her team are running after-school programming as well for Conshohocken Elementary. There's just more people in the building.
So that being said, when you look at the asks here, the A field building versus the gym and the HVAC, what is priority? Is the A field building to get it to a point where it's, rather than redoing everything and then you use those funds to do, because where is the majority of your use being done?
So I think we're there. The majority of the use is being done at the community center.
Right.
The issue is that the A field building itself is at a state where we have to do something to address it. Otherwise, we're not going to be able to use it at all. And we also have, that field is rented all fall, all spring.
But is that building used?
The building is
when
used
the field
with
is
the rentals.
rented? Okay.
And if you don't have restrooms, you don't have locker rooms, you don't have a concession stand, you don't have a place for the referees, then you don't have a usable field.
And that's what I wanted you to say out loud.
Yes.
Thank you.
I'm following you.
I would also like to point out, and this, we did receive $55,000 from an estate of a gentleman who attended the Donna Frio tournament. That number could increase, and I say could because apparently he had things that are being sold off, and between 10 beneficiaries, the money is being distributed. We got a check in January of this year, and then I think like June of this year. So it seems every 6 months there's a check coming, and they said there could be more. I just don't know how much. So that money could go towards those costs. He wanted it something in the community center. To me, what a great way to honor him with the air conditioning for a tournament that, he loved. But
Even in
Yeah.
March, it's hot in there in that
Yes.
tournament.
correct.
And that money is earmarked in an account that, through the Friends of Conshohocken Parks, that is specific for the community center.
That's great.
And the last item, coming to you once again, to ask for the Sutcliffe basketball courts. We discussed a complete renovation years ago. Of course, COVID happened. I understand why the decision was made at that time. I have put it back in. You can see that the company that we had come out and do and seal the court, so the cracks weren't, a tripping hazard and a liability for the borough. They weren't able to match it from fading and things like that. So now we get something that looks like this. But as you can see, we had Aubrey Collins and how beautiful that turned out. So I'm coming to ask for the complete renovation of the basketball courts again. This summer we had, for the past few summers, I have had a basketball clinic that we've run down at Sutcliffe Park, and we've had 3 age groups sell out both years. We also run it indoors, but I wanted a summer program looking to eventually turn those clinics into possible leagues.
That was going to be my next question. There are no leagues as of yet, but
No,
it's coming.
but we've had outdoor clinics, yes. Any questions?
Anybody else?
Tangential question, how is the walking path along the walking track?
The design for the reconstruction of the walking trail is underway. That design will most likely be complete through our engineering firm early winter. We have certain thresholds we need to meet for the DCNR grant, so we follow their schedule. So there was numerous steps that needed to happen prior to that, such as deeds, consolidation of parcel number, a lot of administrative items for the grant itself through DCNR before we can start work. But the construction schedule is on track to begin in 2024, and that is in your budget, which I will present later this evening.
Thank you.
Any questions for Lauren?
Thank you.
And then your line items, okay.
I have 3 line item increases. One is for uniforms. There has been a significant increase in costs.
Page 17 of 20.
So there's been a significant increase in costs for t-shirts alone. This is just a increase along with our economy, so I can properly dress staff, and make sure they have the proper attire. The teledata 01451-321. I have had an increase in 2 full-time employees, so that is a reflection of the cost of, their cell phone bills in there. And then the last line item, recreation program 01451-455. We have seen an increase in participation in our programs over the last several years. This number reflects that. When I came in 2018, we increased this line item significantly so that we can pay out instructors and program providers. Currently, I think I have $8,000 left in that budget, and that'll get me through 1 fall program. So the increase in that is just to reflect the increase in participation and be able to pay out our program providers. So whatever is coming in will only come out of that line item. So nothing more will be taken out than what comes in. Is that clear?
Yes.
And just to confirm that your revenue line item 367-200 covers completely the program money that's going out. So at this point, Lauren has built a team in a department where you have the revenue that's coming in covering the expenditures that are coming out when it comes to programming specifically.
That was a goal, right, Lauren? Good job.
It was. Thank you.
And the only other thing I'll draw your attention to in account 451 is 451-249, the CRC operating expenses. So that does reflect the decision to scale down the funding that the borough is providing directly to the CRC. So we are in a $40,000 in 2023, $20,000 in 2024, $10,000 in 2025, and working through the legalities of dissolving that public-private partnership.
So that'll take how many years, Steph? Approximately?
It'll be a 2-year process. The 3rd year will be no additional funding. In terms of we may that 3rd year still be expending some special counsel legal fees in order to finalize the board documents and the change of the legalities with the IRS because it is a nonprofit organization. Any other questions for Lauren?
I don't have any questions.
Thank you, everyone. Have a good night.
Keep on them.
No what? Oh, this is his first year. Let's give him a hard time. We got to give everybody a hard time their first year.
Lots of papers. All right, good evening. Tonight I'll be presenting the police department capital budget. We'll first start with our capital items. The first thing on the list is new tasers. Currently we have a group of tasers. We have 20 altogether. We have 4 that are 16 years old, 5 that are 9 years old, 11 that are 5 years old. There's a life expectancy of 5 years with the taser, so all these are at their life expectancy. The new model that we're looking at goes from a 2-shot cartridge to a 10-shot cartridge. It has a rechargeable battery. The effectiveness goes from 60% to 90%. We're going to double our range with that. This, obviously, tasers are going to reduce our liability. It's something that we need to have. There's a $4,000 trade-in, and we're asking for $68,400 for this part of this project.
Tasers are issued to each police officer. They don't share.
Each
correct?
officer. In the beginning, where you see the 16-year-old tasers, we did share them. We rotated them through. it really is not plausible. It's at this time, it's a safety issue. Every single officer has one.
Do they also, so you mentioned that the new ones would have a 10-shot capacity?
Yes, that's right.
So it could you could actually reuse it, or there in the,
So previously, the way it worked was there was on our current model, there's a cartridge that goes in there, and it has one shot, and you can do what they call a dry stun, where you put the taser up to the body and it will stun. This new taser has actual 10 cartridges in there, so you can fire 10 rounds through there, which is it's unbelievable.
okay.
Yeah. And again, with the taser, it's all about liability. Any time that we can use a taser and not have to increase our level of force, it's good for us, all of us.
So you're asking for 20. How many FTE do you have in your department?
So if we have a full complement, including myself, we would have 20.
Okay. When you get to the next line item, then I'll ask why that's double that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Any further? Okay. The next thing on our list is firearms. We're asking for $66,061. Our current inventory is outdated and lacking uniformity. Existing systems lead to risk and liabilities to civilians and to the borough and also to our police officers. We have firearms inventory of 3 classes. So we have handguns, which are our duty weapons, which we carry. We also have shotguns, which we keep in our vehicles, and we have rifles, which we also keep in our vehicles. Shotguns are typically what we've had in police work for many, many years. We still continue to use them based on their reliability. We can also shoot multiple rounds through them. Some of them are less lethal rounds. Some of them are projectiles for gases and other things. So we keep them. We have rifles with us also because they're accurate, and it's what we need to make sure that we're safe. We are, I would also like to note that there's a $15,844 credit trade-in available. This also includes $5,864 for the ammo if we proceed with this project. So this category is broken up into 3 sections. The first section is handguns. So what we would be asking to do is replace our current Glock 40 caliber handgun with a Glock 9mm handgun. Our current handguns are 13 years old. They have approximately 3,000 rounds through them. We've been happy with them, but they're reaching the end. They've already reached the end of their service life. Officers, if we do switch to this new 9mm, it's a Glock 45 MOS. Our officers will most likely have higher, more consistent qualification scores, which leads to higher confidence and lower liability. And the reason for that is this new handgun has a mount system. We'll be able to mount a flashlight on there and a laser sight on the top. It doesn't direct a laser. It's a sight glass where the officer would see a dot on there. And having this dot on there creates that more consistency and higher qualification scores, and ultimately lower the liability for the borough.
I have one question on that. What is the life expectancy of those? Do you know?
I can tell you that there is a decent trade-in value. It's not this particular item. We're not really looking more at the life expectancy of it. We're looking for the accuracy and the new features of the newer gun. Right. So I couldn't give you an exact what is the lifespan of that gun.
Okay.
I'd have to refer to our firearms experts for that.
That's okay. All right, thank you.
So Dave, you said something about so many rounds. What did that mean? That's how many that
So
you shoot in drills and practice, or what does that really mean?
So we have approximately 3,000 rounds through these guns now. So if we were to say we have 10,000 miles on a car, right, that's how many rounds we have. So when we got an estimate of what our trade-in value was for these weapons, they want to know how many rounds do you have through there, because the barrel has machined parts in it, and those machined parts wear down if as time goes on, the more rounds we use.
And you're using those rounds in what capacity?
All of this is training. I mean, we We train with the same duty ammunition that we carry for consistency, but this is all training.
Thank you.
And we'll say thank God that it is being used on training.
Yes. So the total for the handgun portion of this project is $30,730. That includes the handguns, the sights that go on top, the lights that go on the mounting rails, and the associated holsters that would have to be replaced. There's also a trade-in value of $5,820 with the weapons that we have.
Total or per weapon?
Total for the handgun portion of the,
So for 20 handguns, we can get a $5,800 trade-in?
yes, yes. And to answer your question, the difference between 24 and 20 that you saw with the tasers, we have extras because occasionally they have to be serviced, so we bring some in, we put some back out on the street. Any further questions on the handguns? Okay. Next one will be the shotgun. We're looking for we're looking for $12,436 for this portion of the project. This would be to replace our current shotguns. Currently, we have a blend of Remington shotguns. Some of them are as old as 25 years old. They've been here longer than a lot of people in this room. Replacement parts for these are unavailable, so Remington went through some issues with their business. The business got sold. We literally just can't get parts for these. So routinely, more than half of our shotguns are down. So when we go to qualify, we have 6 or 8 people at the range, and we're shooting with 2 shotguns because that's really all we have. So it's really time to upgrade them and bring them into compliance.
How often do all the officers have to qualify?
So MOPEC standards say once a year. Our department, we go twice a year. And our SWAT team members go once a month. The new shotguns would be equipped with a laser and a light attachment to aid in proper threat detection. The trade-in value for the shotguns, believe it or not, is $1,350. Any questions?
These estimates for trade-in value and purchase, are these all through like one vendor?
It is through one vendor, yes. So,
Okay.
yeah.
And it's one shotgun per car? Is that how the shotguns work?
Yes. Next, we have our rifles. So this part of the project would be $22,893. Currently, of the 9 patrol rifles we have them through 3 different manufacturers. This creates a problem for our officers when they're training, and if we do have, we're trying to create that familiarity with the weapon, that all of our weapons are the same. There's no issues there. So when they pick it up, everybody knows what they're doing because it's the same weapon. The firearms unit determined that we need uniformity in this instance. Again, we're going to equip them with optical sights and lights for accuracy and low light shooting. We're asking for $22,893, and there's a trade-in value of $2,850 with the ones that we have.
Why do you have to have the rifles and the shotguns?
So, 2 different objectives with a rifle and a shotgun. Rifles, we can shoot more rounds. We can shoot them more precisely. So a rifle, for example, when we go to the range, we shoot from 100 yards, so a football field away, and we can put bullets in circles like this at 100 yards. A shotgun, we can shoot buckshot. We can, when we have animal complaints, we can use them for that. We're not going to get a rifle out and shoot an animal with a rifle. We would use a shotgun. We can deploy the shotgun to use multiple different rounds. We shoot less lethal rounds through them, like a beanbag. We shoot gas through a shotgun, so different applications.
So I have a question, going back to the tasers and the firearms, you're replacing everything at once. Are they gonna meet the joint depreciation schedule going forward, or is this gonna be every 5-year cost? Like all at once?
Moving forward, we are going to establish a depreciation schedule. All of these things kind of came in line at the same time, so unfortunately, that's what puts us in this position. And since we're going to go through all these things, we're trying to achieve that uniformity with all of those things, and putting all these weapons in that same uniformity category just makes sense for us now. But yes, in the future, we will have a depreciation schedule. Any other questions? Okay. The next one is vehicles. We're asking for 4 vehicles and the upfitting costs to go with them. You'll hear about the vehicles further in the presentation from the Executive Director of Operations, but I will just briefly let you know that we're asking for 2 patrol vehicles. These 2 vehicles replace vehicles that are 5 years old. This falls in line with the borough's depreciation plan for vehicles. We're also asking for a detective's vehicle that replaces a vehicle that's 9 years old, and an administrative vehicle that replaces a vehicle that is 8 years old. So we have that 7, we're not going to keep things that are more than 7 years, so we're kind of out of line with some of that, so we're trying to bring that back in. The vehicles that we're speaking about are Ford Explorers, hybrid models. This falls in line with the borough's initiative for a more eco-friendly future. And that would be $252,447.
And that's for 4 vehicles.
And the upfitting costs to go along with them. So that's lighting, radios, computers. We do try to transfer as much equipment from old vehicles to new vehicles as we can, but the problem comes when we go to different body styles of vehicles, or the manufacturer comes out with a new body style that our old stuff can't fit. So
these are all replacements. There are no net new FTE that we are looking at?
that's correct. That's correct.
So Dave, do we have a comparison for, I know that it's our initiative to go hybrid, but the comparison of costs from hybrid to regular vehicles?
I don't have an actual number comparison for that, but I've spoken with departments that have hybrids and have had them for the last several years, and they have said that the fuel cost is down, the maintenance costs are relatively the same, and for us, the fuel cost will be a big thing, and the wear and tear will be a big thing. We start our cars in the beginning of the shift, and we run them pretty much the entire time, because we have computers and air conditioning and all these things that we need to be online all the time. So with the hybrid, it will actually switch to that electric part of the vehicle, so it will be a benefit for us. The next one is going to be a parking vehicle. This is a $50,333. Our current vehicle is out of service and too old to be reasonably repaired. This was the black Ford Escape that has been with our police department for many, many years. The parking officers are currently using a detective's vehicle, so they've taken that over. Our parking officers are out on the street for 13 hours a day. And again, a new vehicle for them, which they've never actually had a new vehicle. They've always had hand-me-down vehicles. Will again align with that eco-friendly future.
And that was going to be my question. There's no hand-me-down vehicle to give them.
They've already taken the one from the police department, which was actually a hand-me-down vehicle from the fire marshal previously. So that vehicle that they're currently in is more than 7 years old.
And it has to be an SUV?
It doesn't have to be, but if we get a vehicle that is the same or similar to a fleet vehicle for the police department, they're relatively inexpensive. Most of them come pre-wired with lights now, so we save a little bit money on the upfit, and it's in line with all of our other vehicles. So when our mechanic goes to service them, we're servicing with the same parts, we have the same tires, we have all the same equipment. So we're not trying to get certain things in stock just for this one vehicle that's different from the rest of them.
I have a question regarding the upfitting. Does that also include effectively like the signage or on the vehicle?
Yes.
For the then patrol or the parking vehicle, does that one include any prospective
We
signage?
will have a marked parking enforcement vehicle. This will include signage and appropriate lights for them. Yes.
Great.
So this is really our first real investment in our move to a more robust parking program. Would you say that that is a correct statement?
I would, and I would like to follow that up with some numbers of what are.
Well, not to correct
Please correct me.
Councilwoman Sokolowski, but did this year, did we turn digital from writing pads to using
Good point.
iPads? I would say that was revolutionary
the first one.
in parking enforcement.
We did, and
Good call.
Hey,
Good call.
Just gotta correct you, that's.
Keeps me on my toes.
which we implemented in February of 2023 after many years of trying to get to a system that would work well for our needs and for our people and the residents here. So you'll see a significant increase in number of tickets that have been written, and that also equates to revenues, which you'll see in a further slide. Any further questions on the parking vehicle? Okay. The next up is a $100,000 request for a fire police vehicle. Currently, the fire police vehicle that's in service now is 17 years old. It served the fire police very well, but they're looking for something newer. We have a significant number of events in the borough. We support a significant number of mutual aid assignments throughout the county with our fire police. So this is a vehicle that is out a lot, probably more than you think, because we don't necessarily always see it here. We send it to places to assist in other events, and then we ask for assistance from those fire police to come and help us with our events. So this would be a vehicle similar to the battalion chiefs at the fire department. If you've seen his four-door pickup truck with a cap on the back, they would get a slide out for their cones. This would also add four-wheel drive to the vehicle, which they don't currently have, so they can come out in weather. Any questions on that? Okay. The next thing we're asking for is $18,094 for parking kiosks. Again, this is tag teaming on this parking program that we initiated or put in place in February. Provides an additional way for people to pay for parking, especially helpful to visitors without smartphones. We've had requests from elderly residents, business owners, and visitors for an option for them to pay without their smartphone. So this would put 2 kiosks in key locations for people to pay. This integrates with our new parking software that was implemented in February. The new system has significantly modernized the borough's parking enforcement, which we already spoke about. There's a chart here that Kelly put together, which really kind of shows our parking revenue has gone up dramatically in the past year. So we've seen measurable revenue increases, and this system also gives people the ability to go online and take a look at the ticket. They can see the actual evidence of the parking infraction, and they can pay the ticket online. So this is just another piece of that whole program.
So where will these 2 parking kiosks be?
We have some ideas, but I'm open to input.
We have a lot of feedback from residents as to where they would like them and businesses. So we'll be taking that into account. If it's approved, where it'll be placed.
Okay.
We also have a lot of feedback from residents and businesses on wanting the kiosks, so.
Yes, we do. So it will be a nice addition down in business.
Okay. Any questions on that? Okay. Next up is workstations. Again, as you heard from Angela earlier, this is in line with our current depreciation program. We always ask for 4 workstations in the police department. Currently, we have 29 workstations in the police department. This allows us to maintain our current IT standards and meet cybersecurity requirements.
many stations are you looking
Four.
at? Four.
Are these like desktop computers?
These are desktop computers. Most of the time, we don't get monitors. We reuse the monitors for 3 cycles of a computer, and then we rotate them out.
And this is just something I don't know. Do the laptops that are in the patrol vehicles, those just stay in the patrol vehicle all the time?
We have the ability to take them out. We typically don't. We actually lock them in. We have the ability to take them out. This is strictly for in-house workstations, so we have a separate line item for in-car mobile computers. Okay. Next up is going to be ballistic vests. This is the bulletproof vests that our officers wear. These expire every 5 years and need to be replaced. This year, just in the way that the officers fall, it's a big year for us, so we're going to need 6 of them. This is $8,500. This is required by our general orders, so it's mandatory. There are reimbursement grants available for this, and we have applied for them in the past, and Chris just helped me put together a grant for this also for this upcoming year. So we hope to see some of this money back, up to half for each one of these vests, so hopefully we'll be able to bring that cost down. Any questions on that?
These, I think we might have seen some of these. Did we also talk about vests last year? Because I believe the upgrade was the.
So we talked about.
Like the new vests were a lot better as well.
Yeah, so those vests are the outer carriers. So these are the inner ballistic panels that go in there. So that was more of a uniform item, and then these ballistic panels will go in those new vest carriers. Yes. Okay. So that finishes our capital items. We'll move on to our operational items. We're on page 10 and 11. The first one I'm going to go to is, I believe, on page 11. That's 01410453, and that's our computer software. We're requesting $38,875. There's a number of items here. The first one is our Power DMS. This is our software that keeps all of our policies and procedures, and everyone gets checked off on that. We load policy in there, and we keep everything managed in there, and then it prompts us to update it, and it's easy to use rather than what we used to use was just paper and pencil and printing it out. So I will note that Divot reimbursed us for 50% of this, so of that $4,000, $2,000 we do get back from Divot. The next one is Clean. This is our interface with the state police for all of our information that we get to run tags and process parking tickets. This has been a slight annual increase. You'll see there. The next one is our RMS. This is our records management system. This is where we do all of our daily work. This is how we forward our cases to the county, how we communicate with other police departments. Our annual fee there is the same. The next one is our scheduling software. We did see an increase with that. We contacted the vendor to see if we could maintain the same rate. We were able to do that last year. We were not able to do that again this year, so we do see an increase with that. The next one is a license plate reader software. This is a new expense to go with the capital item from last year, so we anticipated that, so that's now going to be in this line item. Also is the next one, the PICO fee for license plate readers. Oh, I'm sorry.
Question on that. This license recognition, does that include the computer software? And is that updated yearly?
So this is the software. This is
Just the software?
This is just the software, yes, and this is the annual recurring fee to keep that up to date. Yeah.
That's
This, yeah,
great license fee. It's actually pretty good.
it's a lot, but I think overall, in the future, we will see this entire project will be extremely beneficial for us. Okay, so the next one is the PICO fee for the license plate readers. This is a new expense. This is a poll agreement with them to keep our equipment on the poles. I think everyone's familiar with that.
And not to interrupt, but that expense may go away depending on how things go in terms of our discussions with both PennDOT and PICO, finalizing the installation and the agreements for the LPRs. So
Thank you.
it might be $2,500 less, but it could be the addition.
Okay, thank you. Cellbrite is our software that we use to process phones that come into our custody. Again, this one almost doubled, but at this time, it's really the price of doing business to have this software and this machine. Again, we did the same thing we did with our scheduling software. We called them last year, and we were able to negotiate last year's price again for 2023. 2024, they said, no, you have to pay the full rate. So unfortunately, that's where we're at. We do assist some other agencies that don't have this software, so we're a hub for some other people to come and use that software. So the next one is Microsoft licensing. This is where we went to cloud-based email. So instead of spending $10,000 or $15,000 to buy an actual physical server to mount in our rack in our building, we're now moving to cloud-based, so we don't have to host all of that. We don't have to host the liability that goes along with that. So where we saw capital items that were $10,000 or $15,000, now we're going to see line items that are operational to spread out that software moving forward. The next one is WatchGuard Evidence Library for our body cams. Again, this was something that finally came online last year, and again, where we're not hosting the server here in-house, we're pushing all this stuff up to cloud-based storage. These are the fees that are associated with that. Any questions on those? Okay. The next line item is 01-410-210. This is our office supplies operating requests. So we're going from $4,500 to $6,500. We're trying to return to our 2022 budget. This line item covers all the police department office expenses and miscellaneous supplies. It covers all of our shredding services and the mayor's shredding event, which are $2,200 a year. And I'll take this opportunity to remind you that that's this Saturday up at the Colwell Banker. So that line item covers those costs. So we're asking to go back to our 2022 budget for that. The next one is 01-410-341. This is our advertising expenses and our signs. We're asking to go from $4,000 to $7,000. This covers our no parking signs, which are currently about $2 a sign. We have a number of increased borough events. We're using more parking signs than we have, so that number has gone up. We are also in the process, or we have actually already now implemented new signs which are able to be reused. We talked about that previously. These are now $11 because we're purchasing the reusable sign and the post that brings us back from not having to post them on the trees. So there's a significant cost increase there. We would like to purchase more police promotional supplies. We want to get more engaged with the community, and we want to be able to have some supplies to support those efforts. Any questions there? Okay. The next one is 01-410-374. This is parking meter expenses. We're going from $10,000 and we're asking for $12,250. This is recurring fees associated with the new parking kiosk that's requested in capital. So as we're going to ask for the new kiosk, this is associated fees that set up and software that go along with the setup of those kiosks. Any questions? Okay. The next one is 01-410-452, computer services and repair. So we're requesting to go from $15,000 to $20,000. As you heard from Angela, our IT vendors are advising us to raise our operational line items in those areas. This covers our firewalls, our backups, our supports in-house, third-party software, and this supports all of our IT services that we have in-house. So as we add all these softwares and all these different digital-based things, we need more service to go along with that. Any questions there? Okay. 01-410-453. 453, that's the computer software slide that we saw previously here, and that's it.
Anyone have any questions for Chief Borough?
No, I think I tortured him.
Sure?
I'm good.
All right. Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
In terms of the LPRs, that process is ongoing in 2023. And in moving into 2024, as agreed upon last year, there's around a roughly $45,000 annual cost that is applied over a 5-year period. So that is also in the capital budget relative to that item. Okay? Ready? Sure. Let's start
Looks
with
like it.
public services, so we'll do Frank first. Frank, you're up.
It's your second year, isn't it?
Yes.
So we don't have to drill you like we did to Dave.
All right.
Look at these toys.
No, no.
Find it. Sorry. Okay. First off, we're asking for a street sweeper.
Okay.
Talk louder.
Talk louder and
I'm
tell
sorry.
us what page you're on.
You're on, so you're
Yeah,
in
there's no page numbers on
you're in
this,
the
sorry.
capital budget packet. On the first page, the last section under public services,
That large section there?
the large section. Yes.
Okay, Frank.
Is that large? I don't think so.
Frank
Yes.
has the largest section.
We're asking for it's called a Rabo street sweeper. You might have seen it throughout town. We did rent it. It was an excellent machine. It'll do everything. It can clean out inlets, so that'll be good for stormwater management. And obviously after events, it'll be great to clean up, curb lines all along Fayette Street, at any street. The machine gets in and out of between cars and everything. It's tiny. It's perfect for the borough. So I think it would be a great asset to the borough to have. Secondly, we're asking for a roller for our blacktop program as we do potholes. And we can get larger potholes and larger areas patched if we have the proper equipment, with this roller being the machine that we need. We did last year get a cold planer, which grinds up the blacktop, so this would be an addition to that. Next is the Bobcat MT100. It's a mini skid steer. It's great for in the parks, in tight spaces. We're very limited on certain areas, especially with the new trail going in at Sutcliffe. This will be a great piece of equipment to get, since we're not driving trucks on the path, this will be a great piece of equipment to get around to do the jobs that we need. Questions? We do not have one now. We rented them several times. Yeah, we always rented them several times we use it for every park that we built. Yeah, yes. The next item is a Toro Z sprayer. This would be for the turf program to maintain the grass, and it's for fertilizer and seeding and things like that, and chemicals to put down on the grass. I'm sorry, what's that?
The first one.
That's the sprayer?
Yeah.
The seat comes out of.
Yeah, you stand on the back and you just ride. It's a ride-on machine. You stand on
So
it.
it doesn't hook onto an existing.
It looks like it hooks on, that's why
No,
I'm asking.
I'm sorry, yeah, you just stand on it and you just ride throughout the park.
Okay.
The next item is a Toro UTX four-seater. This is, as you see, we have many gators, we call them. This is just an extra one. This is a four-seater, so it would hold 4 people. This is great for events, great for going in and out of the parks, and they're excellent in the snow.
What's on the back?
That is just it's a utility cart. They could put mulch, top dirt and stuff in there to dump. Next, we have a dump truck. Our current oldest dump truck is 20 years old. literally just had to have the floorboard welded because somebody stepped through it. It's very rotted out, very old. It's repaired for now. We're getting by with it. But I think it's time to get an upgrade.
Why
This-
a camera?
I'm sorry.
Why a camera?
We have cameras in all our trucks now.
Oh, okay.
Backup cameras, and we do have dash cameras to see forward for any incidents that might come up.
It's a liability issue.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know a lot about the trucks, that's why I asked.
Next is the gate operator at 11th and Harry, which is the A field. Last year, we had a rolling gate put in, and it's all set up and ready for a automatic gate opener for that particular park.
Oh, okay.
We had them put in at our 7th Avenue yard also. It works out very well. It's,
And will that be
it
timed?
would give people access that,
Will that be timed also, or no?
yeah, it gives you, usually there's it's usually a minute to get in once you open it.
No, I mean
Agreement.
time to open in the morning.
Oh, now that, I don't know if that's capable of that. That might require a different software.
I was just curious.
Yeah, I'm not sure how that would, we'd have to look into that more.
Okay, it's just a question.
The next item is gates at Sutcliffe Park. That would be at the entrances. I guess that would be Feedley and Sutcliffe Park Drive, and also at Caldwell and Sutcliffe Park Drive. That would avoid us using barricades, and we can, for all our events, we could just easily just close the gates, and that would be, close the park off for fireworks. You see them at certain malls. You could see them at the entrance and exits. So that would be for that.
So the pole in the center of the path at Sutcliffe would go away?
No, that's not,
That would
that
stay.
one would stay, yes.
Oh, okay.
As you can see, they're similar to the ones that are at the boat ramp. That is a picture of the boat ramp.
This would be, setting a perimeter for, let's say, the fireworks.
Mhm.
So Freely Street, we put these across Freely Street.
Okay.
So it would prevent people from going into the park. We put on the other end to prevent people from going into the truck. So it's set up and at the lower end of the top. So it's set up a perimeter for the park. And it's limited to what happens to the barricades. We shut the park down for any. So it's an event where it's an emergency or even where we
I'm confused on where it's at on Caldwell.
I'm sorry?
I'm confused on where you're talking about.
Caldwell, Sutcliffe Park Lane at the bottom of the hill in Caldwell.
It's like the
Yeah, as you exit.
The alleyway?
It's like the alleyway that
So if
runs.
you were on Caldwell Lane and you go left into the park, that road would be, there would be one of these on both sides.
Okay.
Any other questions?
Because there's houses there, do we have to get any permission to put them in?
These are right-of-way issues,
Okay,
so as long as we keep them in the right-of-way.
okay.
Point that we're not gonna we wouldn't disturb any current building, like garages or anything
Right,
like that. But
okay.
these are gonna be manufactured by somebody that Public Works deals with on a regular basis, and he'll come out and measure them, make sure that they work. This does, for what the borough does, as far as fireworks and things like that, this would play a significant role, and it's probably not the last place you'll start seeing these. These would be the test areas. There's probably some other places that they would be worthwhile.
Okay, thank you.
Do you want to speak on the next things? I don't know much about them, so
I don't even know if it's.
I think this was your department.
Should be.
Okay.
I mean, it's got its need.
Ours isn't that expensive.
So one of the things I think we've missed in the borough of Conshohocken is there's no really significant signage to tell you you're entering, leaving the borough of Conshohocken. I know one person in particular feels that we need more of that signage.
Big red
We're gonna
line.
put-
Don't you want a big red line?
I'm just trying to
We
help
should have a sign like Manny
you know what the actual Borough of Conshohocken is.
So we're gonna put some descriptive signage along the bike path so that you know when you're entering and leaving White Marsh Township, when you're entering and leaving Plymouth Township. We have really nothing when you're coming across the bridge to tell you you're entering the borough of Conshohocken. I mean, the biggest sign you see now is what was Amerisource Bergen. So when we took over that section around the Couch Tomato, it kind of opened up the idea to, well, this would be a good location for a sign, a welcome type of sign to the borough of Conshohocken. What you're seeing there is a basic idea. This can take a lot of different. We had one that was, I think, way too basic. It was just basically like Conshohocken. But I think this can take a community initiative. We can have some input from the community as far as these things go, how this is, and it could go as intricate as you want, lighted, not lighted. Whether it fits into the area. Lighted probably wouldn't have fit into the area 15 years ago. It certainly will now, especially on the lower end. This is only around the Weinman Park area. We have to figure something else on the upper end. There's a lot of private property issues there. But we have a significant amount of traffic that comes over the bridge, and that sign on a winter's day, a sign like that probably can be seen from the Conshohocken curve on the expressway. So we're talking about something
Considerable.
significant, I would say.
Something like the one, Welcome to Manayunk?
Very, very similar, and he did have some. He did show us some signs that he's put up in different municipalities, and they could be carved out of wood. They could have, a landscape background. They could have anything you want. But I think, we didn't want to get too far into the weeds with this. We just wanted to give everybody a basic idea. You'd be able to see it coming down the street from on Fayette Street. You'd be able to see it from across the bridge. That's where we started. Everything else, we kind of just leave open and see what we come up with. But I think it'd be an interesting project for your municipality. Since, I've lived there pretty much all my life, I don't remember anything significant signage-wise to indicate that you're entering the borough.
Wasn't there just that little blue sign on it?
There is, and it's blocked by a telephone pole in White Marsh Township.
It's there though, right? I thought it was there.
Yeah, so.
Before it was blocked, I remember it.
So, yeah, we, again, I think this presented basically because we looked at the Wyman situation, and now that that's completely opened up, if you come across the bridge, if you can remember what it looked like when it was overgrown, I would say, as opposed to what it is now, you know that will stick out. You will see that coming across the bridge. We based our pricing basically on what they've done historically in different areas. But again, I think when me and Steph talked about, I think the community outreach part of this and getting a lot of different opinions on what they want, what you want to see. Do you want to see that? Do you want to see that? Do you want to see the landscape? Do you want to see the mountains? They can do anything. So that's that portion, and then the other portion of this, I believe when the building was designed, that maybe the sign out front of our building is not significant enough to be seen from the street. So it's what is basically a 35, 40-inch television screen. And as you're coming up and down the street now, you see these other, we just put one at the Fritz Lodge, if you haven't seen that yet. But the church on 6th Avenue, this sign tends to get washed out. It really doesn't play a significant role in letting people know what's going on. Now that you have an administrative building that's clearly identified as an administrative building, I don't think you can miss that. But I think you need something larger, on a larger scale, so that a car, what should be going at 25 miles an hour, would be able to see that sign. We're dealing with the same company we did for the Fritz Lodge. We're dealing with the same company that the church dealt with. And I even think the church, St. Matt's, dealt with the same people. But it would be a lighted
LED type sign, significantly larger than what's out there now. And I just think it will be proportional to what the building is.
So we're looking at a 9-foot?
I believe around
That's what the church is,
9,
it's
yeah,
not
8 or
9
9
foot.
feet. A little bit larger than what you see at the Fritz Lodge.
Okay.
But again, that is, the thing with signage is right now, it's expensive. This is the time that these things are pretty expensive. The other thing that you're looking at is the availability. There's more of a push now for American-made companies who make these signs, which is what we got for the Fritz Lodge. And because parts are easier to get, maintenance is easier, so that's the direction we want to go with something like this. So we want to keep it within, the larger you go with this and the higher pixel rating you do with these, the more expensive it gets. So we don't necessarily want it to light up the entire block of 400 block, but we certainly want it to be more on the scale of the building. Okay?
Oh,
Puppies?
I don't know much about this one.
So, I'll take this one too. This is more.
Buying fans for dogs?
This is
no, that's the new dog.
this is
you
a
get.
Shauna thing. So she. So 6 years ago, 7 years ago, when the building was first occupied, we're using a system that is proprietary to manage the heating and air conditioning for the building. 6 or 7 years in that business is a long time, and there's a lot of new innovations out there. The building right now is currently not. It's because it's proprietary. It's not a web-based system. In other words, a web-based system, Anita could be sitting at her house and decide that this is too cold, and she could change the temperature of the room if she had the proper log-ons. That's where we are now with these heating and air conditioning systems. So we knew probably 2 or 3 years into the building that we were going to have to make some substantial changes when it came to the IT part of this. I think it was in some ways inundated when we first got on there. Any proprietary system has caused us issues here. The cameras for the police department, being proprietary, that's caused us some issues. Proprietary meaning that only one person can touch it, only one person can fix it. If you mess with it, then it ruins your warranties. So, I'm sorry?
You did have the dictator then. Saying, right?
Let's move to the next item. Go ahead.
Okay, so this is what we refer to, I guess, as the carriage house over in Marywood Park. We did obtain some estimates as to what it would cost to make this I would say usable structure. We do have some mold issues in that building right now. We also have some structural issues that I think everybody knows about. I mean, for years. I think, Frank, you lived there for a while, right?
It was falling down when I lived there.
Yeah. So we would be paying a lot of money in order to take to try to get this to a point where it was back to a usable facility, and then you would all have to make the decision on what that would be. And your return on your investment on this kind of thing would be limited, period, no matter what you do with it. So I think the estimate we got was in the $350,000 range to French drain it, get the basement to where it's not going to, mold is not going to continuously form in the bottom floors, redo the areas on the outside that the plasters come off of, sidewalk, curb, it's not curb, but pathways, and then trying to get the drainage correctly away from the building. So the discussion came up as to, since it's really paying, it played a part here for many years for the different people, like Frank, but, and it doesn't really play a part in what the direction the municipality is going. For the park, the benefit of having something in the park would be to change it over and do a restroom type of situation that we've done in Sutcliffe Park. And you see it in Leland Park, they've also done, and the one at Leland Park is probably the most modern one, but they've come a long way since then. We could, there are prefabricated buildings that the facade of those buildings would match the area that you're putting. You don't want a modern building when you have, catty corner to that, you have what was done at Fifth and Hollowell. That's a gorgeous building, and it has a classic look, and you're going to put a modern type of bathroom in there with LED lights. So there's things that we can do in order to make it fit the building next to it, which is the park house, and play you have 300 people in the park for an event like the fire department puts together with the sprinklers and having the band there. When you have 300 people, you're gonna have to make some type of facility there. And aesthetically as well, aesthetically along with other things, using the porta potties to put in a park that we've really spent a lot of money to upgrade and get to the point where it needs to be. I think the porta potties have used up all the time. They're really not the direction that I think everybody wants to go here. So
for this 2024, we're just budgeting the demolition. And moving forward, we will then talk about future costs that are allocated for potential restrooms.
yeah, every 2 or 3 months there's some new material or some new fabrication that's coming along. We get advertisements all the time for this stuff, so it might be something that, it's something to have a discussion on.
I have a question. I don't know if you'd be able to answer it yet, though. Between the time of demolition and putting something in new, would that be like a blocked off area, or is it just going to be open space?
As part of demolition, the cost we got for demolition, it would be, all the dirt would be put back and would be seeded. So it would be basically an open area until we're ready to build. And the only thing that would have to be addressed, there's a gas line, as you see, there's gas meter there, but there's also a sewer line to that. So we would have to cap, we would probably end up running something new anyway, but we would have to cap those items off. But other than that, it would just be filled in and seeded.
Thank you.
Installing the roof on the Mary Ward Park House, so I think that has been something that has been discussed for a long, long time. The further out we go for this, I think the costs are going to get more expensive and more expensive, because there's always the potential of damaging the building if the roof is not. We've had that here when this building was taken over. So it is time for that. We have had some meetings with some larger companies who do roofing work and some good information. It's not a cheap project. There's decision making to be done with this, whether you want architectural type of shingles and things that would look the same as the period. But there's so many things out there right now that it's just time to change it. I think we're moving forward with some firescape stuff that might bring the building back to looking more like a building of that century, or that period of time, I should say. Yeah, I think it's important that gets done now. We've talked about it, I think, for years, and this is probably the time to pull the trigger on it.
So if it's approved in the budget, then we'll
Well, again, I think maybe last time we looked at it from the respect of just guessing, that per square foot, here's what, and we might have based it on a slate roof that actually matches. But now there's actually architectural type shingles that you can get close to looking this, to having the slate look, for a lesser price. Again, with pricing, I will just put it out there that we are still in the same period of time we have been for the last 24 months. That what a cost is today could be 20% more based on things that happen that we have no control over. In the world, fuel prices control the cost of shingles. A lot of them are made out of asphalt, so it's a oil-based material. GPS, two different Gs, so GPS and GIS. GPS for vehicles is something that we've talked about for a while. So we want to put GPS on vehicles so we know where our vehicles are, and they can be managed based on someone being able to look either on computer or on their phone as to where the vehicles are. There's an accountability factor to that. There's also a predictability factor to that. We're getting into other issues we're getting into other situations where we may take over other, we might be doing some more storm sewer work and things like that. GIS pays a lot of, gives a lot of help to the management as far as where these vehicles are or where they should be. We also have to extend the travel of our vehicles now. So just to get rid of things like recycling materials, yard waste, and things like that, we have to drive to Schwenksville. And although, you would hope that everybody did what they were supposed to, sometimes they don't. And there has to be an accountability factor for that. And, across the board, I think we've all talked about this, that the GIS is something that we were all interested in, and it's a help for the people who are managing these apartments to make sure that vehicles are where they're supposed to be. The GIS system is probably this is a good time to start that now too, because of the stormwater situation and the fact that is again stormwater is becoming a bigger issue everywhere. But the GIS system that we are looking at can do everything from map out the entire borough, the storm sewer system, the sewer system, even do things like signs, stop signs. Every stop sign could be put on the GIS system when that stop sign was put in, and based on current standards when that stop sign should be replaced. So many municipalities, larger municipalities, use a GIS system for, let's say, replacing stop signs every 3 years. They just go on their system and look which ones were replaced and when they were replaced. It also allows us to map a lot of things out that we weren't able to do in the past. We have some, luckily we have a drone program, and some of our drone programs will be involved in that, but things along the river and things of areas that we really didn't look at as far as accessibility goes to try to get to, the GIS system is going to help us do that. And long term, this is the way everybody's going. I mean, you have it in the county. There's some GIS systems that during snow emergencies, you can go, if you live in Norristown, I believe Norristown has a system where you can see where the plow trucks are going in the GIS system on a web-based system. Sometimes that helps, sometimes it doesn't, but that's the way things are going. We need to modernize our systems here. There's been a long period of time where a lot of our systems were not even considered. I can't even say that they needed to be upgraded. They just weren't considered. They were off the table. Now everybody kind of expects a municipality like ours to have a GIS system where an engineer could sit down and look at things and make decisions without having to get into a boat and go down the riverbank and start looking at things.
Any questions on GIS or GPS?
Just clarifying the first bullet point, it's over here too. It says
both the new borough vehicles and the new police department vehicles?
Yes.
Okay.
We have not locked down a GIS company, but I have seen GIS work in other municipalities and how it works. And you can go to a crazy, we don't need anything that's that elaborate. We're 17 road miles here, but the GIS system that we get will function well in the borough of Conshohocken without getting too big.
So the GIS is a tool for management that we would like in order to upgrade all of our systems and our operations. And then GPS, just to clarify, is also going to serve as a management tool. So will it be implemented and installed in all vehicles immediately? Probably not. We will reserve the right to implement and install when and if needed. Great. You wanna move to the next one?
I think he's done, but.
Yeah.
Which, do you want to do emergency management or fire? Let's just roll right into emergency management.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Good job, Frank.
So some of the things that you'll see in emergency management are going to be redundant, but this is the gauge system that you authorized last year for us to get from the USGS. If you do not have that in your phones, you can contact Shauna. She'll get you the link for that. But that is working out well, and that is more impressive than I think any of us thought it was going to be. It's actually working quicker than any of us thought it was going to be. It's going to be able to. It's the most modern one along the river. It's going to be able to map out areas that once the water reaches a certain height, it'll be able to map it out to where on the roadways or where on the land that water actually ends up. They've been very helpful with it. It is. They've been very helpful and very persuasive in how they want to pursue this particular system, and it's a cost to the municipality, but it's also a safety issue here. We eventually will get to the point where these things are mapped out, and we will automatically be able to deploy people to where they need to go.
At FunFest, we actually printed a QR code leading directly to this site, and people who stopped by the emergency management table were so impressed, especially people that live along the water, and took their phone right out and added it, bookmarked it to their screens. Like, the residents really thought this was a nice move, so thought you'd like that feedback.
Thank you.
And we have the demographic that I think, and the area, a lot of the areas that this covers is the apartments along the river. Those people really need to know, and I don't think they can rely just on their management of their buildings. They rely a lot on us. By us, I mean Tim, and the people that work with Tim. But this gives them an opportunity to know that it's time to move my car because the river is here. That's where we wanted to get to. EOC. So the EOC is now or will be in the next week or so, a secondary dispatch center. So we have 2 dispatch centers inside the EOC. We have to obviously with the equipment that we have in there now, we have to upgrade our IT. We have to upgrade. For it to be an official EOC, we want to make sure that we have things like the clocks working at the same time. So the entire building will go on a system where the clocks will all be generate the same time, same date, everything. So we're not sitting in here and you're looking at 7:23 and the next room is looking at 7:15. Those are just some of the things. We're going to use it more for community-based scenarios. I think I've talked briefly about it. One of the things that I watched on television one night that was impressive was Philadelphia started a program where they invited some the people, some of the older people in their areas to come out and use computers to learn about security, to learn what to click on and what not to click on when you get an email, to know what an email that could possibly cause you an issue looks like. We have the police department, which has two significant people on it that know how to identify these things that can help the community. And I think rather than basing that out of the community center, having it here with the computers here and people can work on them, even to the point where we can show them how to use their phones. One of the big things about why we're having kiosks, why we need kiosks, is because some of the older people don't know how to use their cell phones in order to download the information. So that was even provided for the people during this program in Philadelphia. And it seemed that it was very well received, and I think that's something that would work here. So we're going to move in that direction with this, but it is, this will be, right now, an official EOC for us, and in certain circumstances, maybe even some of the other municipalities around us. You know, Plymouth's going through a lot of reconstruction right now. You know, who knows what can happen there. We're going to need some help. They've all been to our EOC. So Plymouth's been here, White Marshal's been here, Lower Merion's been here. So they know what we have, and they know that the municipality and the council has made a significant investment in it, and we just want to tweak some of the things that we found were wrong, similar to what we found wrong in the building. Tim?
I think we're going to take a quick bathroom break, and then we'll come back and Tim, you're up. Okay.
I thought it goes green.
Okay, for the fire department operations, the first line item is the small combi tool, and that is a cutter, spreader, and it's also water resistant, waterproof up to 11 feet. We bought one last year, and we're requesting another one this year. That also does vehicle rescue, so cuts and spreads, and it also is forcible entry tool. So when we deploy units with the water team, we send one of those units with the water team. So if we have to get into a building, it's easier on the members. A lot faster, and it's about 11,000 to 12,000 pounds of force. But the old hydraulic system was about 3,000 to 4,000. And with the newer metal on the cars today, you need these tools to cut the metal. Any other questions on that? Okay, the Motorola radio, obviously, you know, we have a brand new fire engine coming in 2024, and we need a new radio for it. And then the position headset, that is for the high water vehicle. During storms, we rely on portable radios and microphones. Microphones don't work well when it's wet. So this is a system, they're waterproof, they go on your ears. So there's constant communication with the crew, the drivers. So we know everybody's safe and ready to move when we're ready to go. Yeah, yep.
If you haven't been in a high water vehicle, that's one of the problems. Is you could be sitting right next to a person and you cannot hear. It's a very loud.
So for safety, so we can all hear each other. The next line item is, I'll do the PPE, the personal protective equipment. That's firefighting gear. Every 10 years, it expires by the NFPA standard. So we just got some gear that needs to be replaced. The thermal imaging cameras, we currently have 2 thermal imaging cameras that are getting hard to repair. There's a shutter system in the cameras. When we're searching in a fire, when it comes across heat, the shutters open and closed and allow us to see the images. And the shutter, they stopped making the old system. So when they're shot, when they're done, we have to replace them anyway. And the last is the trailer. The trailer is called a pod system. It has lights, storage, and for 2 boats. So limited manpower. It's very easy to deploy, and you can put all the equipment, victim's vest, the forcible entry tools, and equipment into the bins, and it is much easier to deploy a boat from the trailer system than what we currently have right now. It's a stackable trailer, so you deploy the bottom boat, and then there's a pulley system. It drops the top boat in position, and you deploy the top boat into the water.
And don't forget the door automation and washing.
The door automation, oh, okay, that's the fob system, upgrading the fob system for access into the engine room area. Any questions on that?
Do you want to do your line items while you're up here?
Sure.
Copy of them?
I don't.
Not this one.
Not the relief, right?
Not the relief. So
Okay.
just start with the gear.
Okay, the fire gear, that would.
You're on page 12.
12. The fire gear, obviously, we added more career firefighters, so more equipment that we have to buy. And same with the meeting and attendance. As we get more certifications, we have to go to more schooling. And the borough appropriation to the fire company, as you know, the cost of keeping up buildings, truck maintenance, and equipment. So for a firefighter to come in, it's a $5,000 set of equipment it's a $3,000 set of water gear as they go through their certifications. So it's just the cost of trying to keep up.
And Kathleen, Adrian, and Anita were serving as representatives council for the fire subcommittee. I don't know if either of you, any of you want to present the $75,000 increase that they requested, but that is built into that line item. So in that line item, what you're seeing is an additional $75,000 that would be earmarked on top of what number 2 currently receives.
Tim, how many new firefighters?
We got 11 new firefighters in over the 4 years, and currently 9 of them have completed the Fire 1 certification.
And how much time do they have to invest?
It's 188 hours just for firefighter 1, and that's just your basic entry-level position to learn how to fight fires.
For a volunteer.
For a volunteer, yeah. And then if you get into the water side of it, you're probably, with all the classes, another 80 hours.
And how many swift water rescue people?
So currently, we have our application in the state of Pennsylvania for our level 1A. That's the highest level of water rescue certification, and you have to have 16 and so much equipment, 16 members with the tech certification. So that's everything: water, ice, and rope. And we have currently on the books, we have 18 techs. Yeah, and it's impressive because if you look at the state system, most people that are level 1A, it's a regional water rescue team. This is right here in the borough. This is, yeah, one station, 2 stations. Sorry.
I did want to note that part of that increase is like these new members that are coming in. As we noted, it is a volunteer fire service. That it is a sign that what is happening within our fire department is very attractive to outside individuals also. So people are interested in coming from other fire departments to volunteer with us. Because they're not getting paid for this, the incentives are these things like training and courses, and that those are what continue to attract people. So these people who are getting certified in water rescue, that's actually a major thing that is also continuing to bring more people to our area because they want to get those sorts of certifications.
And
They all come out to fix.
yes, we have a great group right now, and it's thanks to you too because of the equipment that we bring into this town. We have a good thing going on right now.
That's great. Any questions for Tim?
No, but you did that without turning reddish.
Oh my goodness.
Thank you. I'm not sure yet. I'll let you know.
All right, moving into the final thing for operations vehicles. Do you want to just talk about the reality of vehicles moving into 2020?
Yeah, so, you heard the chief talk about vehicles. The reality is, hit us pretty hard with the ability to obtain the vehicles that we want to get. So 2024, Ford will not be accepting any Ubers for 2024 vehicles. As of
Just a reminder to have our mics on, please.
So they will not, and they would, I'm sorry, they won't be fulfilling any 24 orders. The only vehicles that will be available are vehicles that are currently out there, which predominantly are going to be gas vehicles, not hybrids. Hybrids are right now the toughest to get. And then some
some of the smaller electric vehicles. By November of 2023, you must order what will be the new 2025 edition of the Borough. So they are, for lack of a better term, it's not, or better terms, they're not gonna produce any cars in 2024. They're gonna get old. So, if we do have a scenario where the police department or one of the departments needs a car, we will try to get what's out there on the market. Hybrid vehicles right now, you have two options. You buy the police package, pretty much, and you buy the civilian hybrid package. So if you buy the civilian hybrid package, it comes with everything in it, first like a limited or a platinum model. Or the police package that comes with nothing in it, you have to put everything in, including the console and that. When we purchased a Explorer for Chris Small earlier this year, the last hybrid police vehicle in the area that Fred Bean, which is a pretty large dealership, got sold to Princeton Police Department. So there were none available. Now, there are some potentially out there, and we are going to be looking at, purchasing them based on the fact that we're going to ask for these in the budget. But it is going to be a strange kind of year. Now, they're going to telling us that we have to put an order in for a 2025 vehicle by November of 2023. So every car that we need by November 2023 has to be ordered. And we're going to get a 2025 model, which we will not know what it looks like. It will be a different body style. That will definitely be the case. So that will influence how the police department, well, they don't have many Explorers anyway, but it'll influence what they can, but it'll be difficult to get upfits for them, parts for them, everything else for them in 2025. So we're going to try to stay away from purchasing anything, because we also believe that the hybrid vehicle will be more efficient. The battery will be better, and it'll be a better car, period. And if that's the case, we don't want to purchase anything this year, and basically looking at a vehicle that in 2025 that'll be much better. As far as purchasing them, if we can get them, this will be the only time that I think the municipality, if we do a big purchase like we were talking about, will actually receive a return on the investment. So vehicles right now, used vehicles, still get a high value. On top of that, the gas savings from going to what the police department and everybody else has, even the smaller SUVs that code have, the gas mileage differences are considerable. They're actually written on there. But you can spread out over 4 or 5 years and see what the return on the investment on that vehicle is, simply because the gas mileage and what you've gotten for the vehicle that you sold to replace it will be. So we want to take that opportunity at some point, and it might not be until 2025, where if the police and everybody else can get through this year with what we have, then we make that large purchase in 2025 and get that return on our investment in 2025.
Okay, clarifying question. You just threw a bunch of dates and different timelines. So I get the purchase in 2025, but you threw out a timeline that we have to order in November of 23 for 25.
Yeah, so in November of 2023, if you want a car in 2025, you must order it by November of 2023.
So
and it's a week period of time.
Today, all the cars we heard about today.
And any others potentially. So we don't have to put any money down. We don't have to put a deposit down. We don't have to do anything. But if we tell them we want 12 cars, they'll hold 12 cars for us. They'll get 12 cars for us. If we don't take 12 cars, if we take 10, they are going to have plenty of different people that are going to want the other two. So they're not concerned as much about that, but they do. we do have to come up with a plan based on 2025 in November of 2023.
Are you saying that we need to decide whether we want to purchase cars for 2024 or skip it and go to 2025?
No.
That's what I need clarification.
Just from a financial perspective, you're looking at we're presenting roughly $620,000 worth of vehicles to you this evening. That's what we just presented to you between police, fire police, operations. We're going to encumber that $620,000 reflective in your 2024 budget. Because starting in November of 2023, in order to solidify you can be able to acquire a vehicle in 2025, you need to earmark the funds. You're basically promising to purchase those vehicles. You're not spending the money, but that $620,000 will carry in your capital fund balance. So if you promise to encumber the funds in 2023, you'll carry the funds in 2024. If the vehicles become available, you'll get them. But if they don't, then you'll require them in 2025.
Before 2025.
Yeah, so often what happens is August of the year before, vehicles start coming out. Things like the strike, the strike, and are going to affect that. So there might not be that August period of time. You might be waiting till January of 2025 to get a car.
Traditionally, it's end of August, September that you see the 2025.
So this way we'll have the money encumbered in case they do become available. But we do not want to purchase a 2023 build. Have 2025 come out with a different body style. And then, especially the police, you do transfer some, even if they got into an accident or the vehicle blows an engine, they won't be able to transfer anything from that vehicle into the new body style because it'll be a completely different vehicle. And Ford's not going to tell you what it's going to look like. They're just telling, I saw the letter they sent to the dealer, and they basically are just saying there's going to be a new body style. That's not what the dealers are believing. It's going to be a new body style and a new engine type, which hybrids seem to be where things have been pushed more than all electric right now.
So you're gonna encumber a PO for.
We're going to encumber the funds so they are earmarked and held a placeholder in your budget. You may not expend those funds, but we will be rolling the funds over for that specific purpose, whether it hits in 2024 or it hits in 2025. But to Ray's point, we're going to wait for the correct product. We're not going to just try to fill a fleet simply because it's what's available.
So can I ask an extension question on that? So in theory, then, when we look at the budget next year, we may have to wait another year potentially to buy cars. Like, is it something to look at what we need, depending on the depreciation schedule, to put those cars that we're going to need in 2024 in that same order? So that we can get everything together in 2025.
We're going to put a substantial order in for cars in November of 2023 to make sure that we're covered for that year.
Okay, another question on vehicles. All right, we're going to run through the line items for operations. Do you have your line items?
I do.
So we'll start with account 409 on page 9 in front of me.
So that's operation and maintenance of the building. So the building, obviously, we're at the seventh year? Eighth year? Yeah, eighth year of the building. Knock on wood, we haven't had any major issues in any of the infrastructure of the building, but we always want to increase that number to coincide with what we see the market is going up, and that's about 18%. So we want to make sure that we have enough money to cover any major things. Again, we have 4 air conditioning units on top of this, or 2 air conditioning units on top of this building. They each have 8 compressors. One of those compressors went in the 11th month of the building being built. That was covered under warranty. That cost $25,000 then to have them come in and replace 1 compressor. So we want to make sure we have some money set aside for that. 409-321. Teledata is, again, something unpredictable, but we want to make, teledata is computer IT. We want to make sure we're going to have upgrades throughout the building. We're going to put more stuff into things like the EOC, but even throughout the building, we have to upgrade some of our infrastructure. 409-323, alarms. Well, we learned some interesting thing about the alarms and the alarm panels in this building when we had them assessed. And not only this building, but other buildings in the municipality. Some of them did not meet code. They had to be replaced. And we've gone in the direction of not only fixing and replacing them and getting them up to code, but also having a maintenance program for them, so that it's not the requirement of someone from the borough, the building, to understand that this needs to be maintained. Some of these things are actually done remotely, so when there's a problem with a panel, it goes remotely to an agency, and that agency then sends somebody out to fix it. But in some locations, we didn't have any at all. Landscaping, I just think we basically are just picking up our game when it comes to landscaping. If you haven't noticed, the building outside, we've tried to add some color to the building. How's that? The monochrome stuff didn't work. It doesn't work anymore. So, landscaping is important, and it's not. Although because it was such a low amount anyway, it looks like a substantial increase, but it really isn't. Holiday decorations. So holiday decorations. I believe we've gotten some feedback from the residents as far as our decorations and how they need to be upgraded. I believe what you will see is a substantial investment and an upgrade in the decorations for the municipality for the holidays, in all respects. We also have now we have a sign out front that we can change the colors on if we have to. The Borough of Conshohocken signs, if everybody doesn't know, they are red, green, blue, white, so we can change all that. So yes, you will notice a pickup in how the borough is using their holiday decoration money. I'm sorry, say that again?
Can we ask what we're going to be treated to this year? Do we have an idea, Rick?
We went to the I guess the North Pole of Allentown to look at some decorations in the summertime, and they showed us stuff that Shauna was very intrigued with, and I think you'll.
She's very excited. I see that. Okay.
I'm trying to turn it into the Disney.
And it'll match the municipality. Anything gets washed out when you come across the bridge and you hit those lights. So we want to make sure that it's substantial enough where it won't get washed out.
Snowflakes.
There will be things like that, yes.
Okay, we're gonna turn to page 15.
The curious question.
Start with account 427.
Again, that's the alarms. I talked about that earlier, the upgrade in the alarm systems, both panels and having outside companies monitor them. 428, I believe that's a typo, right?
Yeah, so 427-248 will be changed in your final draft, and will decrease. So you'll see a decrease to your bottom line. So the next is 427-470.
The CDL renewal, that was something that was thrown at us the beginning of the year. The changes in the state requirements that were going on for 5 years, and they never actually pulled the trigger on making the CDL requirements change. So they are more stringent now. They require some classroom time. We have developed a less expensive, I would say, program in order to use, but there were very limited places that you could get these classroom type of scenarios. So the CDL renewal program has to be upgraded.
And we'll continue to assess those costs as we have new employees that need to go through that program. So you see a slight increase now, that increase could grow down the line. 430, 245. Highway supplies.
Oh, highway supplies, I'm sorry, I didn't see that, the pink was put out. Highway supplies, we have, again, it's just, the municipalities changed from us worrying about trash all the time to us worrying about the streets. We're trying to make a big effort into changing the way the Public Works Department and Frank and all the look at public works, and that is to make more of an emphasis on highway stuff. And there hasn't been that much of an emphasis on it. There's much more an emphasis on it, and Frank brings a lot of that to the table. But just replacing common street signs in the borough of Conshohocken has become extremely costly. The state, if you look at the street signs, you'll see some smaller ones on the streets. Well, that was a requirement 2 years ago. Now it's 3 times the size in order to do that sign. So it's much more expensive to deal with all that. And we do have a crew that goes out and does that and makes sure that they're not only done but done correctly. What else do we have? Meeting and training, I think that's something that administratively Steph and I have always talked about, which is you can't do this work without knowing why you're doing it. And trainings and meetings and things like that are much more important now than they've ever been. These guys go to an event that's sponsored by PennDOT, which sometimes last time was West Virginia, that PennDOT sponsored the event just to get as many municipalities from the area states as they can. But it's important that they see what's out there because without that general knowledge, we're going to stay at this level, and that's not the direction we're going. You saw the budget, street sweepers, rollers, all these things. You just don't get into them, and there's a lot of technical training when it comes to this stuff, and our public works people have definitely been up to taking care of that. PA1 call.
Flip to page 16.
I'm sorry. So we went to an outside agency for PA1 call June, I think, of this year, because of the issues. PA1 call is it's another unfunded mandate where they just basically say, if you don't do this, if you don't do these PA1 calls, we're going to fine you and fine you substantially. So we went to an outside agency. The outside agency handles it. We have all this construction requires PA1 calls. Every time they do anything here, they have to PA1 call it. When even in emergencies, they have to PA1 call it. And we hired this company to do it for us. We really didn't know what the cost was going to be related to the amount of work that they were going to do. But it's substantially more money. But I think our liabilities are covered. We have to handle a couple situations that were that happened prior to us switching over. We have to handle that with the PUC and 811. So we have to go to Harrisburg and sit down and talk why this happened. But we're seeing more and more of it. The amount of road work you have here, Aqua, Pico, Sewer Authority, and the stuff that we do. We're going to see a higher number here. That eventually will decrease.
All right, and then your last line item is on page 19, under 454.
454, 500. Special events. we'd have a lot of special events. And I don't think they're going away. I think you're probably, there's probably a request into the building once or twice a month that 5 or 6 years ago would have been considered a big event, and now it's just another event. So as the borough has become very reputable in how we handle those special events, and more people are coming here. We might be before you again next year, even asking for more, because the special events just don't seem to stop.
I just wanted to clarify for special events, that goes beyond like Fun Fest, right? And so that includes things that might seem a little bit smaller but bring a large crowd, like the Clydesdales. Who else?
Philly's going to the playoffs.
Philly's going to the playoffs, and hopefully they'll go again, or they'll come back to Conshohocken. Does this also include the Green Fest? Okay, so the environmentally conscious festival that we like to have now in Conshohocken. Thank you.
And that'll get bigger every year also. Any other questions for Ray, Frank, or Tim, or Shauna? Okay, I will just going to add 2 quick items on your capital budget under operations. We are looking at renovations to the council chambers. That's an item that you saw on your list. And we have added a stormwater utility truck that will be specific to the new stormwater department. So that cost is an estimate at this point because we are still working through that budget, but it is on the budget for consideration tonight. Okay? I'm gonna move into if you go, if you flip the page on the capital budget packet, and that is the last 2 sections of the capital budget. So the first item is the capital engineering project. That equates to roughly 2.8 million. That includes multiple projects. So in rehab of the culvert at 7th that ties into the work that Mr. Bukowski is doing at the Hale Pump project, that's approximately $550,000. There is the Sutcliffe Park BMB project. I'd like to note that this is a mandated project with the DEP. This is not a borough-initiated capital initiative. This is a DEP requirement that we must satisfy within a 5-year period, and our 5-year period is up, and they have indicated that there will be no extension due to COVID or to the market fluctuations in the costs of goods. That project is now estimated at $1.35 million. 5 years ago, before COVID hit, it was estimated at roughly $500,000. We have reached out and requested financial assistance. We've received no response. We have asked for an extension to hopefully the cost of goods to decrease, and we've received the answer of no. So we are moving forward. The good thing about the Sutcliffe Park B&B project is we are doing that in conjunction with the Sutcliffe Park Trail rehab. So we are actually able to save some costs because we're pulling our engineers working with the NPDES permitting and the conservation district. So it's all going to be under one umbrella, 2 separate projects, but we're not double dipping in terms of those costs. So we're able to, since it's one park, one location, pull all of those permits with all the costs that are associated with that. But those are 2 large projects. You have the BMP project at $1.35 million and the Sutcliffe Park Trail at roughly $660,000. And that $660,000 is our cost in addition to the $300,000 that we received in grant dollars.
So the 1.35 is a state mandate.
It is a state mandated required project. We are looking at different designs for 2nd Avenue. We've talked about this multiple times in public forums. We're moving past that hypothetical stage and moving more into the engineering and the designing phase, and those estimated costs get you an actual package that could come to fruition is roughly $100,000. We have an engineering contingency built in there of $20,000 simply because there are always unforeseen costs. And then we are having a road program again for 2024, which will focus on Hollowell around Marywood Park, finishing that whole area. We did the Harry Street side this year. There are costs, though, that are associated with that road program that are not covered through your liquid fuels fund. So just to give you a ballpark figure, you're looking at roughly a $750,000 road program, which is going to cover 4 blocks. 4 blocks for $750,000. You're looking at having to cover $140,000 in engineering costs that are not covered through liquid fuels. So when we start talking about road programs and we start talking about additional debt and financing through RBC, which we're currently underway for different financial designs, you're looking at roughly $1 million for a 4-block radius. So just as we continue that conversation, the reality of those numbers are going to be large. And you're only going to have so much of a borrowing cap where you can take additional debt out. So the numbers are going to become very real, very fast, and there's going to be having some strategic decisions that have to be made when you're looking at your road program in terms of areas of priority and areas of desire, and what really needs to be focused on, because you're going to not be able to do it all. Right now, we've done 3 road programs leading up to this point, tackling some very problematic areas. But I just want to make sure those numbers are real to you moving into conversations past 2024.
So Steph, the book of comprehensive road program from 3 or 4 years ago that we put on the shelf
Correct.
was at 32 million. That in essence may triple.
It most likely will triple, yes. And your borrowing capacity is capped around 30 million. So you're not going to be able to do it all, but you'll be able to do some. And that's if you don't factor in any other decisions that you may want to take debt out of. So we are pushing towards infrastructure and roads and those priorities that need to be a priority, but you're going to hit a cap. And so it's a great conversation that we're going to have to kind of take a shelf-ready product we have and really dissect it of what the needs of the borough are today. So that kind of captures that $2.825 million for capital engineering projects. Moving on to traffic engineering capital projects. A lot of these are placeholders at this point, some are not. So we have a lot of grants as it relates to traffic engineering. So you have the Green Light Go grant for Elm Street. That's a $1.5 million grant that you have. But that grant comes with a matching component. That matching required component is roughly $377,000. You have the Mast Arm grant. That grant is in the amount of $348,000. That project is underway. We're expecting it to be completed and closed out. We put some carryover costs in here just because the deadline for when all the submissions are due are mid-January. So the contractor and PennDOT, not everybody moves very quickly, so there could be some carryover, so that's there as a placeholder. The CMAQ grant that we received for Fayette, again, it's pretty much closed out. This is a $5,000 contingency there as a placeholder should there be any carryover costs to do the final closeout. We're always looking to collaborate with West Conshohocken like we have done in the past for any grants to design any potential solutions to traffic congestion in that area. So we earmarked $30,000 based off our previous experience and the recommendation of our traffic engineer. The Fayette Street Road Diet. So we continue to research and reach out for potential grant money in order to look at this project and complete this project. We had held off on it simply because we wanted the construction to be more towards the end. We're getting to that point, so it's definitely something that, from an administrative standpoint, we think that you should consider and look at. But again, we would be looking for roughly 1.3 to 1.5 million in grant dollars in order to satisfy that project. That comes with a 30% match. So you're looking at roughly $390,000, which is what is built into your budget. So the 1.3 to 1.5 is not, it's the match that is. Make sense? Okay. With the new Oak Street crossing, there is a railroad preemption factor to that, the technology and the materials. That's earmarked at roughly $175,000. Matson Mill did contribute money, which is sitting in your capital fund, specifically earmarked for that need. So it's money and dollars that are budgeted, but they are not tax dollars. And then we are looking at 3 different traffic calming areas in the borough: Harry, Spring Mill, West Elm, and Hollowell. These are currently being evaluated by the traffic engineer. We have placeholders in your capital budget should anything come to fruition. They're in the $25,000 to $50,000 range. I do not have definitive plans of what we will potentially propose as options, but those are the locations, and when they are ready, and if they are viable, then we will present them to you as options and for consideration. Any questions on capital or traffic engineering?
So the 1.122 in grants is all the matching.
So the $1,122,000 in traffic engineering, the majority of it is the matching required for the grant dollars that we have already received.
And what was that number in grant dollars? Do you remember that?
It's roughly, well, 2 grants comes out to roughly $2 million, and then the rest would be dependent upon what grant dollar was received. So really, you're looking at between, all the grants that we usually get require between 10 and 30% match. So for traffic in particular, we always go for those grants. But yes, we're looking at roughly, potentially
$3.5
$3.5 million worth of grant dollars where we're not.
for an investment of $1 million.
Correct.
Thank you.
Okay. Good. Anything else? We make an annual contribution to Narberth in the amount of $50,000. And for grant matching, non-related to traffic engineering, we are also required to provide match when it comes to grants. We are the recipient of 3 grants moving into 2024. There's the DCNR grant for the Sutcliffe Trail, the GTRP grant for the Sutcliffe Trail. Our required match for those 2 grants is $275,000. And then we are also the recipient of the DEP 902 grant. And our required match for that is $25,000, so that equates to roughly $300,000 in grant matching dollars. And Tina, before you ask me, the DCNR grant is in the amount of $250,000. The GTRP grant is $60,000, and the DEP grant is roughly $250,000.
So 4.2 million for a 1.3 million investment.
Ballpark, yes. Thank you.
Can I ask a question?
Yep.
We're doing this grant with the matching with the trail project, but there's trail funds up in the capital engineering project. How is that?
So the grant, the capital grant is the actual construction.
Okay.
The grant matching is the money that we're required, it's the proportion of $660,000 that we're required to match for the percentage that is required for the grant application.
Okay.
The last item on my capital list is the Conshohocken shuttle. So as everyone is aware, we put out an RFP for a shuttle program. The RFP results are in. The bid has been tabulated. They will be presented to you at your October 4th work session with a recommendation from GDF, who is the entity who will be actually managing the whole shuttle program on behalf of the borough. The rough estimate costs, should you be inclined to approve the shuttle program, is roughly $250,000 annually. That includes the cost of the vehicle, the wrapping of the vehicle, the management of the program, the software to do tracking, cameras, security, the driver. It's an all-encompassing number, and you'll see the full bid tab in your meeting materials on Friday. We're gonna turn right around into another meeting again, so you have some more reading to look forward to. You're welcome. Any questions on those capital numbers? Okay, moving into line items. If you turn to page, we'll start with account 403 on page 7. 403-310, income for the tax collector for EIT. All tax numbers, all tax collection numbers, as the amount of tax you receive increases, the amount of expenses also increases. Your agreements with your tax collector are percentage-based, so as they collect more tax, they get more revenue in return. I can tell you that the revenue they receive is pennies compared to the amount that you are collecting. So that should cover 403, 310, 317, and 318. Any questions on those? For 404, 314 on the same page, legal fees, solicitor. Quite frankly, we're using Mike Peters more often, and he does fantastic work. And so the numbers that the increase of $20,000 is reflective for the amount of work that he's doing on a regular basis. If you turn the page to page 8 for account 406. We talked about pensions and MMOs. You'll see increases across the board. 406-352, the helipad and terrorism insurance. That is indicative of the market today in terms of terrorism insurance, cyber insurance, property insurance. That is reflective of our annual costs. 408-317 on the same page, traffic engineering general. As you just heard, there's many initiatives that Brian Keaveney, our traffic engineer from Pinoni, is currently working on. With those increased initiatives comes increased costs. So that is built into that $20,000 increase. Turning to page 10 out of 20, again, the police pension plan, we discussed the MMO obligations and the increase that we are looking at. But just drawing your attention to that again. And then on page 12, 411-197, the firefighters relief. The firefighters relief is the equivalent of the MMO. So that is the exact same thing. You're seeing that roughly $50,000 increase for the fire pension based off of market standards. If you turn to page 16 of 20, we're looking at account 446. So this is the new stormwater management account. I will dive into each of the line items separately when it gets to the point where the stormwater fees are adopted and it comes to fruition. Right now, what you need to know is that the line items have been estimated in conjunction with HRG, who's a consultant that's working directly with the sewer authority. And you're looking at roughly $393,000. The stormwater department will include, they will all be ASME employees. They will include a seasoned and veteran employee who we feel is up to the challenge of taking on the assessment and development of this new department, who will serve under Frank's guidance, I guess I'll call it, if he's not even here anymore and stuff, doesn't matter. There will be 2 additional laborers that will be assigned to the stormwater department. So there will be the option for current employees to either apply for an interview and be appointed to those positions, or the hiring of new employees. Any questions on that? Okay, that takes us to the last thing I'll say in terms of the line items. I mentioned it earlier this evening, but just to clarify, workers' compensation, health insurance, and property liability, those numbers have not been released by Divot as of today. We have budgeted in a 10% increase. That probably will not do it. The way the insurance markets have been. Last year, our property and liability increased by 26%, and that is with us being involved in the trust, which pools the risk over all of the members, and they're able to pump out a much lower number than we would with a private insurance company. So for this evening, we put a 10% increase in there. My expectation is that those numbers will increase. Hopefully, I am pleasantly surprised once I receive our renewal documents from Divot itself. Any questions? All right, Britt, you want to put up the capital worksheet for me? I'm just going to go over some rough numbers real fast. Can you scroll to the bottom first, Britt, all the way down? We presented a large and hefty capital budget to you this evening. The total amount of items that we requested is $7.8 million, which is significantly larger than what we have historically budgeted for annually in terms of capital. But I want to throw some numbers out there for you real fast. So moving into the end of 2023, your cash position is strong. You have made the fiscally responsible financial decisions over the course of the last 5 to 10 years, which have basically resulted in a $30 million increase in your cash and investment position. So you're looking at roughly 160% growth margin over that period of time. Impressive. What we're going to work towards after these next 2 years are putting in policies that basically set standards for Borough Council and the administration on kind of where that fiscally responsible threshold lies. So what does that look like now and in the future? What should our reserve policies say and do? We did finalize an entire capital asset policy. That's done and complete. And so this is kind of that next step. We've done the due diligence to get ourselves to this financially sound position. We're recommending that you invest in these initiatives in 2024, knowing full well that, and I did have this conversation with all of our directors in our operations meeting, that after this year, the expectation can't be that we're setting the bar at $8 million is the norm. We understand it's a large capital budget. We understand it's going to be an exception, not the norm. I believe they understand it as well. I believe that message was clear. However, ultimately, we've been building to this point. So you have the cash position. You're at roughly $23 million just in your general fund. And then if you look outside your general fund and add all your other funds, you're looking at roughly $36 million. And that's just your cash. That does not include your fiduciary funds, which are your investment funds, or your reserve funds, escrows, et cetera, OPEB. So our recommendation this evening, and my job is to illustrate to you where you have the funds in order to carry through with the initiatives that we're recommending this evening. You have the $23 million in general. The recommendation is going to be that you take $5 million of that 23 and you move that to your capital fund to fund a large majority of these projects. Understanding that some of them may or may not come to fruition, so there will be some carry forward and most likely into 2025. The additional funding sources will come from your park and rec fee estimate. You'll have another large increase in your parking fee that you'll see coming through for 401, 433 that we don't have now, and we haven't really budgeted for in 2024 because we don't know when it will hit, but that will be forthcoming. You will potentially have around a $1.8 million fund balance at the end of this year sitting in your capital already. And then you have your capital reserve fund. So right now, your capital reserve fund is at roughly 5.2 million. We're suggesting you take roughly 500 to 600,000 and move it into your capital fund. And then you have your stormwater fee, which will be around 200,000 specific for capital, and then your grants that you already have, which is around the $300,000 mark, which totals to around your 7.8 million. And understand that if that is the direction that you feel is the sound decision to go, the direction to go in, then that leaves you with roughly 18 million in cash moving into 2024 in your general fund still. And then it would roughly take your cash position down to 31 million. And if we're talking about setting those thresholds of what's fiscally responsible in terms of policy, I think you're still in a sound place, basically. But at the same time, you tackle a lot of the initiatives that the department directors feel are important at this period of time as we shift to larger discussions like roads, infrastructures, fire, facilities, etc., and other things on the horizon.
So this was our goal, to get to where we are today. We worked hard to get here, to get the borough to here. So even though it is a significant amount, it is what we have been working for all along to get to. Am I correct on that, Tina?
Yeah, I mean, from my perspective, I think over the last 8 years that we've been on council, we did not come in with a strong fiscal book of business. We were able to, because of everything going on in the borough, we were able to really grow with what was going on. We still have that opportunity because we still have things going on, but we know we're coming towards the end of that, which is why we've had the conversation about putting policy in place as we move forward. So we leave a legacy for future councils to not have to reinvent the wheel, where we actually are setting standards to make sure that the borough has protection as we move forward, and has money that is has the ability to build off of itself. So I'm really proud of where we're at, and I think that one more large investment when the time is right, which is now, is probably the way we should go, in my opinion.
Does anybody have any questions on that? I mean, I know a lot of you guys want to hear, like, we were from the beginning, except for Anita. It's been a hard 8 years getting to here. So I'm quite proud that we are here as a borough, as the administration, everything that you have done to get us here also. And I think you are correct, and it is the right time to invest this money back into what we need in the borough, because we have grown everything. We've grown our borough crew, we've grown our recreation, we've grown, thank God, our fire department. Every area of the borough we have grown, and that was our goal to do, but with it comes this. So I think it is a high budget, but one that we should actually be proud of. Does anybody else have any questions on that?
So I will ask this question. Is there anything on the list that you'd like to see removed?
Just a total.
I think, Steph, you and your team are going to need to know what the plan B is if some of those dollars come in much higher than anticipated, and then suggest to us what we can strip off to make that balance would be my recommendation.
We'll be prepared for that.
I think you already are prepared.
Yeah.
But I thank all of you for all the hard work getting us here again to today, just getting us ready for the budget, because it is such an extreme amount of work. And Stephanie Checo every year. You amaze me on the great job you do.
Thanks.
So,
All right, so what I'm hearing then is, at this point, barring unforeseen circumstances where numbers come in inflated, where we have to prioritize, the 7.8 million is approved. Understand that this is a temporary approval. There'll be a formal budgetary approval process that happens in November, but we will proceed with that number and those initiatives with that being capped.
Knowing that we do not have to do a tax increase.
No tax increase.
no tax increase.
That's the question I always get.
I know.
Which is great. We all get that question.
Okay, well then that takes care of capital, and we'll proceed under that direction. The last thing I will leave you at before we break for executive session, unless there's any other questions, this is the breakdown of your major cost centers. Your overall personnel cost increase, which is built into your budget, is roughly $2.1 million. Your operational increase is roughly $4.6 million. So if you break down your budget into your major cost centers, which you'll see in greater depth in November, your personnel costs come out to 68%, your operational costs are around 26%, and your transfers are around 6%. So that is the overarching map of your 2024 budget. And this is just your general fund and your capital fund. And then the rest of your funds, your operating funds, you'll see in November as well.
I do have one question. So we have a police chief search happening,
That is correct.
and a police chief potentially would be hired in what year?
Depending on how the search progresses, it will either be late 2023 or end of first quarter 2024, by the end of first quarter.
So, when you get new leadership, sometimes there are some discretionary funds that you put aside for their. Are we going in that direction? Did we build anything, or did we think about that when Chief Lennon kind of put his program together, thinking that that would be what we would want the new chief to work towards?
So in developing the budget for 2024 and having numerous conversations with Chief Lennon on it, I can tell you that he did have the foresight to evaluate the entire department. I think it was a very selfless act, understanding that Chief Lennon is also interested in the position of the permanent chief position. So I can say that the numbers that he built in there were an assessment of the department that anyone coming into that position are going to need in order to operate. So I think that he did a thorough job. I did build in some extra contingencies in line 480, again, for any potential unforeseen circumstances, but only a limited amount, a small percentage, understanding that I think he did his due diligence and gave you the reality of what needs to be, of how the department needs to operate.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chief Lennon.
Okay, so any other questions? Everybody's still awake, so that's good, kind of. Everyone's still awake, yeah. All right, I'm good. That is your draft 2024 budget. I would just like to say a huge thank you to all of the department directors. They do a ton of work, and everyone who assisted them as well. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. You did put me a little bit of a panic. You said before we go into executive session. There's more.
Public comment.
There is a little.
Oh, there's a little bit more, but it'll be super fast.
Okay. All right, we're doing more. No, there is no public comment this evening. Are you closing the meeting? I can most certainly
Great,
say.
thank you.